In this video, we'll be taking a look at the Baofeng K63 Ham HT. The K63 is clearly a budget class radio with some of the styling features of the K5 series of radios from both Guansheng and Baofeng. The K63, however, is a different radio. It comes in either green or tan camouflage color scheme and is very similar size-wise to the UV5R. I got this radio from Radioddity. They occasionally provide me with radios for review, but this one I purchased using channel funds. There are two things that set this little radio apart, aside from the color schemes. First, the K63 is a triband radio. That means U.S. hams have access to the 1.25 meter band. The other is that it's advertised as a 6-watt radio instead of the typical 5-watt claims for most radios at this price point. As we'll see in my power output test, the actual output is better than most 5-watt radios, but less than the advertised 6 watts. Let's take a minute and call out some of the features I found particularly interesting. Besides being a triband and the power output, the K63 has a large 2600 milliamp hour battery. This adds a little extra weight compared to the UV5R, but you can also expect longer operating time with the bigger battery. As with most modern HTs, the battery is USB-C chargeable. Next, the radio has a black on blue LCD screen. I love color screens, but the fact is they are easily washed out in bright sunlight. The LCD screens often do better in the sun. If you find yourself using your radio outside a lot and you live in a sunny location like I do, you'll like the K63's LCD screen. I've had this out in the bright Arizona sunshine and the screen was completely readable. Related to the screen, you can reverse the background and font colors to give you a bit more control in either bright or darker situations. As with several models with the K6 architecture, the K63 supports open source firmware modifications. If you like the ones and zeros associated with radio programming, there's a link on the Radioddity sales page to the GitHub page with files and notes on some open source firmware. Last in this abbreviated list is the radio's broad receive capability. Besides the ham bands I've already mentioned, the radio receives in the UHF, VHF, FM broadcast band, NOAA weather band, and AM air band. The radio's 999 channels give you plenty of room to load it up with the channels you want, or set up do-it-yourself zones in channel ranges you decide for channels supporting various activities you do or locations you visit. Hey, if you're finding this video helpful, please click the thumbs up button below the video and be sure to subscribe to the Gadget Talk channel if you haven't already. Click the notification bell to be notified when we post new videos. There's also a join and thanks button below the video where you can show your support. Thanks for your consideration. Now, let's jump into the nuts and bolts. We'll start with a look at the radio and its accessories. So let's take a quick look at what's going to come with your Baofeng K63. Here's the box it comes in, and it's the typical Baofeng box. Let's see what we've got here inside. The user manual for this radio is labeled as the K6 and 63 series. I don't think there's much difference between these two radios, but it's got the usual stuff, tips, charging instructions, how to charge, some diagrams here for what the radios do, the buttons, some of the things in terms of the various displays you're going to see on the screen, the little icons that are there. Gives you some basic operations, advanced operations, and then it goes through all of the menus and it describes what they do, and then there's some troubleshooting. So this is pretty typical of Baofeng manuals. So it does come with a desktop charger. It's got this one, came with the 120 volt for the United States, the little tabs here to charge, and it's pretty typical of these little Baofeng desktop chargers. It did not come with a USB-C cable, although the battery is USB-C chargeable. But if you're like me, you've probably got 1,000 of those laying around the house anyway, so that's not a big deal. Now, in terms of security, it comes with a belt clip, and this is different than some. It doesn't screw on. It snaps on into a little slide in the back of the radio, and then it comes with a lanyard that fits in a little loop hole there in the case of the radio itself. So you can use the lanyard to keep it on your wrist, or you can just clip it to your belt or pocket or that kind of thing using these two accessories. Now, the last accessory we got is a wired earplug. You can just kind of loop this over your ear. There's a little speaker that'll allow you to hear the radio. Plus, there's a push-to-talk button with a microphone, so you can use the radio. It's kind of secret agent style. If that's what you like, it plugs into the side of the radio with a K1 connector. So let's look at the main parts of the radio. First is the antenna. The antenna is a little rubber ducky. It's fairly stiff, doesn't have a lot of flexibility. It's a dual band antenna. It's got an SMA connector, and this is the socket or female side for the radio. Next, we've got the radio and the battery. The battery's a little bit bigger than some of the ones that you find. It's labeled as a 2600 milliamp hour battery, and it's a 19.24 watt hour. As I mentioned in some of my reviews, they're adding this watt-hour rating. I suspect because airlines are going with watt-hours in terms of these little lithium-ion batteries in terms of what they allow and what they don't. But this one still has the 2600 milliamp hour, if that's the way you're used to thinking about it. And it's got an 8.4 charge limit. It's the BC K626 battery. And then this is the radio. It just snaps in like that. Since we're looking at the back, we'll start here with our power off tour. We've got the clip here for the belt clip. Right here, we've got the loop for the lanyard. We've got 3 charging tabs here that would go into the desktop charger. And then we've got the USB-C connector here with a little indicator showing the charge status, red or green. On this side, we've got the accessory plug. It's a K1 connector with the large and small sockets for the programming cable or for the speaker mic that you can get as an accessory, or the little headphone that I showed you a second ago. On this side, we've got push to talk. We've got side key 1, side key 2. And then on the top, we've got the antenna connector. This is the male side. As you can see, it has a flashlight and then the on-off button here with a little LED indicator here so you know whether you're transmitting or receiving. Now, on the front of the radio, it's got a screen that is about the same size as most of the radios here, and it's got the typical buttons that you're used to seeing on these small radios. It's got a VFO and memory mode button here to switch back and forth between those two modes. AB will move you from the upper to the lower register or the upper lower part of the screen if you've got the dual watch enabled. And then this is a kind of a sweep key that you can work with some of the scanning options in the radio. Here is menu, and it's also labeled A. You've got up labeled B, as well as a caret going up. Here is C with a caret going down, and then exit labeled D right here. So that's a little bit different with this radio, but their placement is where you're used to seeing. The other interesting thing about this radio is that we have the buttons have letters on them, which leads me to believe that we're going to be able to make some changes to menus, such as naming channels in the menu system on the radio by using the text buttons that you expect to see on a phone, for example. Now, the microphone is right there. The speaker is right there. So that's a quick power off tour of the Baofeng K63. Now, let's do a power on tour of the K63. So let's turn the radio on and see what the various buttons and displays do and look like. I'm going to hold it up to the mic to hear the voice when it comes on. Just let's listen.
Channel mode.
So we've got the Baofeng female voice there. And so we've got the radio here. I've done some adjustments on the screen. I hope you can see that. But the upper register shows channel 1. The lower register shows channel 2, and it's in the VFO mode. It's in dual mode. The battery's over here. we can see that channel 1 has a CTCSS code and the power is high. And then in the lower register, it's in VFO mode and the power is also high. So we've got the various buttons here. We've got the VM button here, which changes. The little caret shows that we're in the upper register, so we can change it between channel and VFO. We can go from A to B by moving the AB button. And then this button is a sweep button that works on some scan things. Now, the other thing we've got here is our menu. So let's take a quick look at the menu. Now, the menu is a little bit different in that the first 15 or 20 menu items all have to do with programming the channel, which is kind of handy. They're all grouped together, but we don't really run into the radio settings until, I don't know, about 23. Let's go up and look. Yep, 23. And so that's where our squelch is. We can set the squelch. We can do our battery save or receive save mode, Vox, all the things you're used to looking at, the voice, the menu hang time, beep prompt, Roger beep, all of these things are here in the upper levels of the menu. So that structure is a little bit different, although there are about 55 menus here in this particular radio. Exit will take us out of that. A long press on exit will turn us into the search mode. You can see it's set for UHF. By pressing the AB button, we can change where it's going to search from VHF, 200 megahertz, 350 megahertz, and then back to UHF. A short press on the exit will take us out of that. And then a long press on the 0, as with many of these small Baofeng radios, will take us into the NOAA weather channels. Let me push that real quick.
90. Thursday, partly sunny. A 10% chance of afternoon.
And then another long press on 0 will return us back to our normal display. Over here, of course, is the push to talk. I wanted to point out that this is a triband radio. So if we go here and go to VFO mode on the top, I've got a 1.25 meter frequency dialed in. As you can see, if I push, it transmits. And then if I go down here, it transmits as well. And if I go up here to channel 1, which is a VHF frequency, it also transmits. Now, the side keys are over here, and these are programmable both in the menu and in the CPS. And so the top side key I've got currently set to turn on the flashlight. Second press flashes, and then a third flash turns it off. And then a long press on the top key goes into the FM radio mode. There are a number of choices. These are just the ones I've made. On the bottom, a short press will change the power. And again, if you can see in the screen, the low is right there. It goes CT and then L, that's the power. If I press it again, it changes to H for high power. I like having the button to allow me to change the power so I can use the amount of power I need and not just always run on high or on low power. And so that is pretty much the power on tour of this little radio. It's a basic radio. The menu structure is a little different, but it's certainly functional. One of the reasons I keep buying these inexpensive Baofeng radios, besides the fact that they're kind of cute, is that I'm always curious if the latest model will have fixed the signal purity issue in the 2-meter band. Budget class Baofeng radios are notoriously noisy in the 2-meter band, and alas, the K63 is no exception. In the 1.25 meter band, signal purity is much better. Here's what I found. So I've got the Baofeng K63 hooked up to my Tiny SA. The Tiny SA is set to record harmonics, so you see the vertical lines, and this horizontal line represents minus 16.0 dB, which is the 25 microwatts for the standard for harmonics with the FCC rules. And I've got the radio set to high power. It's a 6-watt radio. Comes in, I've measured the power on this. It's a little less than that. And I've got 40 dB of attenuation there in the line, again, to keep from damaging my Tiny SA. So let's take a look at high power in 2 meters and see what the signal purity looks like. I'm going to let this go through a couple of times, let it settle down. And so number 1, the fundamental harmonic, is at 33. Number 2 is only 17 down, not down 40 like it's supposed to be. Number 3 and number 4 are down 40, but they're both above that 16.02 line. So this is kind of typical of many of the Baofeng radios in that in 2 meters, it's pretty dirty. Now let's take a look at the 220 band. In a lot of the Baofeng radios that I've tested in 220, they come across clean in this part of the spectrum, so we'll see if this radio is in line with those others. So here we are at 223.5, high power, again 40 dB of attenuation, measuring harmonics. It's gone through a couple of times, and is often the case in 220. This is a clean radio. It's 45 below the primary or the first harmonic, and it's below that minus 16.02 or 25 microwatts. So good job on the 220, not so good on the 2 meter. So I've got the Baofeng K63 hooked up to my MFJ 874, and I'm going to set this at 5 watts. It's rated as a 6-watt radio. They generally tend to be a little bit lower than that. And so we'll see here. So we'll be reading the power output on the lower arc in the display. So here's the 2 meter band, 146 500. I've got it set right now. And so on high power in 2 meters, about 4.5 watts. That's not too bad. Low power, about 2.4, 2.5 watts. Now let's go up to 70 centimeters at 44600. High power, again, lower arc. Got about 3.6 watts of power. On low power, got about 2.4, 2.5 watts of power. Now on the 1.25 meter band, at 223 500, the FM call channel, on high power, got about 3.3 watts, and on low power, again about 3.3 watts. So that's the power output for the Baofeng K63. It's rated as a 6-watt radio, and for most of the bands, for a budget class radio, it's doing pretty well, achieving close to its rated output. The customer programming software for the K63 is typical for factory-provided CPSs. It's easy to figure out and works well. This screenshot shows the channel and options menus. The radio is also supported by Chirp. Use the Baofeng K6 choice in Chirp. Here's a screenshot of my K63's channels that I imported via Repeater Book. Chirp's import features and variety of open stock configurations, such as US GMRS channels and Marine Band channels, are a huge time saver for those who plan to input lots of channels into their radios. If you're a new ham just starting out and budget considerations are important, the K63 is one of the radios you should probably consider. The signal purity problem means you should probably avoid the 2 meter band, but with the 1.2 meter band and all the repeaters on 70 centimeters, that shouldn't be too much of an issue. There are a couple of entry-level budget class radios that don't suffer from the 2 meter problem, however. One is the GT5R that's also sold by Radioddity. It's priced within $1 or so of the K63. Another is the TID Radio H3 Plus. It's a couple of bucks more expensive, but it enjoys a clean signal in the 2 meter band, along with a couple of additional features. Baofeng really hits the mark when it comes to radio styling and having a large variety of radio styles and cases, all at reasonable prices. It just drives me nuts that they won't fix the 2-meter signal messiness. Okay, rant over. To close this out, the K63 is a solid radio at a very competitive price. Signal quality aside, the radio has all the features most radios include, along with a solid feel and cool appearance. At this price point, it's almost disposable, so taking it along with you on hikes or camping trips is an easy choice, even if you lose it or it's damaged. The loss is minimal. With its broad receive range and weather channel reception, it's also a good choice for a go bag or emergency comms radio during local weather events. Again, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to the Gadget Talk channel. Join me over here for a review of another entry-level HT and my amateur radio playlist. Feel free to comment, and thanks for watching. 73.